We're inviting members of San Diego's congressional delegation to join us during their 4th of July break to talk about everything from immigration to Afghanistan and recent Supreme Court decisions. Joining me tonight is Congresswoman Susan Davis, California's 53rd District Representative, a senior member of the House Armed Service Committee, and a ranking member of the Military Personnel Subcommittee. Congresswoman Davis, welcome.
Thank you very much, Peggy. Good to be with you.
Well, when you return to Washington, Congress will receive a formal request from the White House for $2 billion in emergency funds to care for the refugee children and families who came across the border from Central America. How will you vote on that request?
Well, I have to see it, of course, and to look at the legislation and see all that's entailed in it. But we do have some costs that we've incurred, and what's important is to process the children and certainly the women, the families, in the most expeditious way we can. And so that's what that money is for.
What is your reaction to the protests? I'm sure you've seen them against processing these immigrants here in Southern California.
Well, the Border Patrol has a job to do, and I think that we need to let them do that job. Part of the difficulty that we're having is that the laws actually have created this process so that children are interviewed and need to be really spoken to about the situation that they're leaving in their home country. That's the law. That's the law that was passed under George Bush and in 2008. We need to take a look at that. We need to see, whether there are some changes that need to be made. But at this time, I think we need to let that play out while we're looking at what we can do to fix this broken system. It is a broken system, and I know that people feel like Congress should act, and unfortunately, we have not had the Speaker bringing forth legislation that allows us to at least conference with the Senate bill and move a bill onto the President's desk.
Do you think the flights, they are continuing from Texas to California to San Diego County to have these children and families processed, do you think that should continue?
Well, I think while we have those children, again, we have a law that tells us that we have to do that. And so until that changes, and I'm not exactly sure how it can change, we have to send a very, very strong message to the traffickers, to the smugglers, to the people who are encouraging parents to do this, that they can't expect that that's going to happen. But we also know that this is a time that some parents are feeling that they have been told they have this window. And if a parent feels that that is their last hope for their child's future, parents do these things.
I know the president, moving on just a little bit, authorized a buildup of U.S. security forces and advisors in Iraq because of the advances of ISIS militants. Do you agree with his decision?
Well, I think we have to have advisors, because if we don't, then we're not going to have any information. And that's critical to knowing where we go from here. We know that the situation there is a terrible one. It's terrible for the refugees. It's terrible for the problems that are created throughout the entire region.
Would you support airstrikes if he goes in that direction?
Well, right now, airstrikes are included under the president's authorization. But I don't think those kind of airstrikes would be done unless they believe that they can isolate the ISIS players and that it could be done without hurting the civilian populations. And that's partly why we need to have advisors, so we know what's going on. The better thing is to get the parties, the stakeholders in that region to share control, to share power, and to move forward on behalf of the Iraqi population. That's what needs to happen.
The Supreme Court, bringing this a little bit home as with Congress, decision on the Hobby Lobby case allows some corporations to opt out of providing certain forms of birth control to their employees. Some say the ruling could undermine the Affordable Care Act. Would you like to see Congress involved in this, and if so, how?
Well, I think the difficulty is here we have a precedent, and we would have, for religious reasons, people opting out of a law, and it's important that we not do that. I think that there already have been a number of signals sent that people are going to be asking for all kinds of things within the legislation, and that people who are covered on the Affordable Care Act, it's not fair to them that those kinds of changes would occur.
And I want to end on this. It's no secret that there's gridlock in Congress. How does that gridlock affect San Diegans?
I think it affects us all because decisions are not being made. We're not even addressing important issues. Everybody here knows that our immigration system is broken. That has to be fixed. That we could have a bill that would come on the floor when we go back from recess, and we could address a number of the issues that are happening right now, but also the long-term needs that we have in this country. That's probably the biggest one. But even the Highway Trust Fund needs to be addressed. We all have to look to some of our issues with infrastructure as job creators and really helping people here in San Diego. That has to be done, and I certainly hope maybe after this 4th of July that people would come back and they really would have the commitment to do that. It's the only way things are going to get done.
All right, Congresswoman Susan Davis, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Peggy.